we'll get into this a little bit together. Okay, so let's do this now. Right. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit and get us to a sort of a point in time where we start seeing essentially what I'm looking for is some sort of sideways sort of action after we likely take or start making, you know, lows or highs in here, because this is Asia session here. And actually Asia is very good to learn structure because it's a little bit slower, but it obviously still follows the rules, right? There's this. And we'll go to about 2100. And we'll go on the 1 minute chart as well, because that's kind of what I want you guys sort of looking towards here. So what we're looking at here is we have a push up here into this high. It looks like we've got a small rejection out of here. What you're looking at is you're looking at smaller time frame structure, but also want you guys having in the back of your mind what's going on in the higher time frame too. Right? So we have something like this on a higher time frame. Right? And then within that, we've got, you know, our potential pullbacks, but we're looking at these protected areas. You know, that if we trade back in and we can't, you know, say we sweep this area and fail, then we're obviously going higher, right? Equivalently, if we get a strong push down here and close, then, you know, we could be looking at some lower prices, right? So we're not trying to find zones necessarily straight away. We're looking at studying price itself and what the market's doing. Okay. So for example, right now, I would be expecting a break of this level, and then we'd probably have to liquidate here, probably test down to this unmitigated zone. And then we look for potential signatures that will then take us back up. Okay. So we're trading back down in here. And essentially what I'm going to start doing is getting you guys a little bit engaged, and we'll start calling out whether what we're looking for, say when we get down here, if we're long, if we're short, sort of what's going on. Okay. And we'll play a couple of days together. Right. And we'll start reading price itself. So strong move down. We've obviously liquidated this zone so far, continuing lower. And I'm going to mark out this area here. And those of you probably already identified, we've got a little sort of SMDR in there. Right. And essentially what we're trying to do is, if we get into this zone, what are we looking for? If we don't get into this zone, what are we looking for? Do we have areas above that we might consider tapping back into? Right. And sort of going from there. Right. So strong push down. We're looking for a body closure or not. Right. Right. So are we long right now, as an example? Right. We've got our push down or push back up. We've ran the lows here. We've come back up here. Is this somewhere that we're actually looking to go long? Right. Okay. Right. So we actually have our move down or move up or move back down. We're actually traded above that now. Right. So there is a possibility of this and continue up higher. Right. We've closed above this candle to put us in. But is it valid? It's not, right? Because we failed to put in a high. Or sorry, we failed to put in a low here. Right. So our actual pullback, this candle closed below here. This is our valid bar. We got our pullback here. We swept below, right, into this fractal, which was just underneath. Right. There is a possibility here of trading back down and then coming up. Right. question is this enough of a pullback, right? And in my opinion, because of this violent move that's actually come down here, I'd be expecting another swing down. Even though we got a flip here, this violent move here for me, without being in a clear zone, at least from what we have, I'd be expecting sort of lower prices. At least I want to see what happens with this high. If we start pushing up and we sort of close up here, then we're going to look at pulling back into the zone and continuing higher. Right, not what the bears want to see yet. Decent push, response, and there go your lows. Right now, this tells you something else, right? That we're actually seeing accumulation happen in here, which if we're going to break this trend and we've swept it and can't break below it, right? We've got this low here, which is now closed below. And I've been discussing in PM with some of you guys that this is all just consolidation. Our valid low is here. For us to have a market structure shift from this move, we would actually need what? We would need this push come all the way up here and get a body closure above here. That's our last valid high, right? So what the market often does is it will create what? It will create a lower, a protected high that's lower, right? This candle closed below here. And now if we fail, if we go lower and fail, now our market structure shift's much easier to do, right? This is where doing back study or back testing and study of price actually helps you get on the right side instead of just looking for flips. Okay. Is everybody with me on that? Cool. Okay, so here we go. Now, if we start failing in here and not pushing lower, now we might consider looking for a flip, right? Because what else do we have? We have, I mean, people with price action might see, might see a sort of channel here or mega horn or whatever instrument that might be, right? This is the 24th of May, 2020, right? But the idea with back testing is that we're not sure what's going on here, right? So we're not reviewing, we're kind of looking in real time of what's going on, right? So for example, if we went up, I'd be expecting potential reaction from here to take us back down slightly, right? We're looking at different reversals, right? You've got a fractal in here. These are speed bumps, right? Okay. So I look at this, that we've now failed a few times to go lower. I would be looking at something in here that would potentially, at a minimum, take us back up to this high here. But if you guys are just starting out, this isn't a trade that I want you taking. I want you to find a zone. For example, we know this is closed here. I want you guys sort of waiting for the flip to happen, the trade back in and gone. Okay, and that's what we'll look at for our beginner sort of entry. Okay, so let's play a few candles out, right? We've got our flip sort of happening here now, right? So we traded down. Actually, that went lower. We traded up. We traded down. We traded up again. You know, ideally, I'd want to push at least to take some sort of liquidity, but we'll see how this plays out. Right, tap back in. There we go. You know, looking good for bears. And now we've got a body closure. Let's actually not put a structure yet. And there we go. So we've now closed above here. That's your candlestick shift as well. And we're looking for this protected high to get taken out. There we go. Right. So now we're sort of looking at potential areas below. Is this fractal responsible for anything? It's not, right? If it was up here inside of this range, right, or there was a major low here, and that was the zone that pushed us down, right? That's just a swing on a lower time frame, right? So, answer the first question here is that we traded down, we went sideways. This isn't part of structure. We had our closure here, actually. Should have been that one there, I suppose, in hindsight. And what happened was we actually got a body closure below that here, making this a protected high. Notice that this wick is not actually part of it. That's just manipulation, right? So when we're evaluating protected highs and lows, we look at body closures that close below the last valid bull or bear bar. Okay. So now what do we have here? We have a protected high that made a low, and now we've just flipped. So this is our zone here now, and we'll look at 50% here. Right? We're looking for likely what's going to happen is we trade up into this area here, and then we come back down into our zone and we potentially leave there. Alternatively, we might, now that we've taken a protected high, we could just come down, but right, and then do some sort of consolidation like this and continue low higher. But this isn't anything I would take an entry on. Okay. So we'll continue on. There's your sideways right up into it. That doesn't mean we short from here necessarily, but it means that we have to be aware if we're long in here, first trade is potential scalp. You identified the flip, right? And then the second trade might be your longer move. Right? Also aware that we have an unmitigated zone below us. Right. So market structure, this is it. Premium students of DTFX will probably use this. Right. I use the lowest point in the swing when I'm drawing my zones. And also I use the highest point prior. Right. And you guys can refine sort of your zones within the zones and whatnot as well. Right. For example, this sort of fractal in here would be somewhere I'd be looking for. Right, so no surprise, we bounced off of this level. This is taking us back down, probably into the range would be an ideal, right? But see. Right. So we'll mark out that high. We just took that out. The violent move so far. Is this a valid swing? Good. Right. Recall that it doesn't need to trade into the prior zone, but what low does it have to close below? It has to close below here on a bear bar. Right. This is our last structural bull bar, which then didn't get a body closure. So this is not a valid pullback on the 1 minute. Okay. Right. Your pullbacks create your swings. Right. Your first down move is your first swing, and now we're looking at where our second swing is. That's right. So this, essentially, I'm looking at where our prior low was, which was this one, right? The body closure that was the lowest below our prior low here, right? And then we got a body closure down here. This one did not close below that one, so I don't consider that. I consider this as a lower time frame structural range. Okay. The wicks matter when you're drawing your swings, but you're looking at body closures when you're identifying structure. Right? Remember that we don't consider, say, a higher time frame. If this was your protected high, we would want a body closure above it on the higher time frame, not a wick. Now remember that double tops, yes, this failed to break above here, so essentially this would be a double top. Right? So here we go. We're looking at least targeting, seeing what happens with this protected low here for a smaller time frame push back down. We're looking at this zone. We're clearly seeing some strength in here. And we've got our actual official first pullback in here now. So we'll see what happens with it. So we've swept below the protected low. We failed to close below it. If we trade above here, the idea is that we actually are going after this high now. And cooked. Right? Now, does this mean that this might be an excellent long in here? Maybe for a few points, but I really, taking longs at the top of a potential range here isn't an extra or excellent strategy, right? Our money is in the pullback. That's what we're looking for, right? And this might go, this might attack the highs now, but what we're looking for is some sort of a move into here, and that's what we're waiting for. So build your discipline that way, right? Rather than taking every 5 or 10 points out of the market, we want those 90% or higher probability trades that are going to grow our accounts to the point where we can look at, okay, I'm going to take a little bit here. I'm going to take that long there. I'm going to take that short here. Okay. So another valid swing coming in here. So we have our first, we have our second. It's potentially our third, right? That doesn't mean we're shorting to try and get back into this range. But what it means is that we might just be waiting for something a little bit better. Okay. So we're looking for here, if it's going to trade back in and you're considering a short off of the third swing or potential fourth swing, is you're looking for a tap back in and then some sort of bearish failure action here, potentially, flip, and that would take you back down into here, right? And that would be a decent 20-point short, right? But we're not shorting the highs expecting lows to get taken in. Anybody short right now? If not, what would you want to see? You're long still from down here, futures trader? Or are we long from in here for another push? Okay. So you're looking here. Yeah, I suppose that would have delivered a 1-to-1. That's fair. Right. So at the top of a range here, not a long would have taken. Can understand what you guys are seeing, right? Where we're kind of doing something like this. I trade back in and then it delivered the 1-to-1. A lot of people thinking long. Okay. Anybody short? Okay. Traded below here. This is our current dealing range after we broke below this consolidation here. Right, so we have our SMDR responsible for breaking below that range that was here. We've traded below into here, and this is our current dealing range. And you'll also notice that this is a small range within the range as well. Right, this would have been considered a double top, which then ran this low and failed, leading us higher. Right, this traded above. Right, I would currently be short here, looking for failure at this high for potential move back down into this zone, personally. Oop. Anybody still short? Be honest with yourselves. That's a nice sweep, right? If we're on a 1 minute, right? So when you're looking at candlestick flips, for example, this, right? This is a 5-second flip, right? But what you're doing is you have to expect that if the 1 minute is going to roll over, then we're going to need a certain amount of time to leave the zone. If the 5 minutes going to roll over, then we're expecting probably a tap back into here and go. Now, I don't think this is part of a 5-minute structure, right? What I'm seeing here is that we've actually flipped, left the zone, came back into the zone potentially, and then go. What I don't want to see is a body closure, say up in here. Need to take out that double top with close and retrace before it went long. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. For sure. Right. I'm currently short looking for at the minimum this low. Right. And what Chuck is saying is this area here needs to be liquidated before we consider going long, which is true. Right. So here's our tap back in. Still moving lower, still moving lower. We still short. We getting some sweeps. Right. Just grinding lower. Bang. Lots of unmitigated down here and even more down here. Right now, with this sort of movement, I don't expect us to trade down here right now. And the reason is because the amount of higher time frame swings that we've kind of got and the rejection here, I would have expected some sort of a trade back in and some sort of urgency. So my understanding right now is that we're probably going to bounce from in here. Right? So we're topping back into this range. Is this mitigated yet? No. Are we looking long in here because we tapped into it? Right? This is not where we look long. Does that mean we can't take a few points or whatnot? Absolutely. But you guys have got to really practice what you're expecting on these zones here. And if you're waiting and trying to get consistent, you're looking for those A++ flips in here at this area, right? You're probably waiting for something down here. And guess what the market's going to do? It's going to whisper at you, right? Come on. Here. Going back up, guys. Going. Let's go. All right. How are we thinking? I think somebody in chat earlier identified this as a potential area. That's fair. Right. So we've got our 50% level here, and that's excellent. Right. But we're not married to the 50%, are we? We're looking for, say, like one of the trades on Friday was people got cooked seeing this, and we're waiting for inducement. So we're waiting for people to get interested in buying, and then we run their stops. Similarly to how people got interested in selling in here, and then we ran their stops in the actual move came. Right? This is why we always wait for something to be taken before we get into entries. Right? So now what we're seeing is we're seeing a push down. We took out this liquidity into our zone within our zone that we can refine. And some of you might look at this as well as potential, and that's true. Right? But what you're looking at is, do we get a flip? Right? We don't need to rush this. You know, I think Chuck is blue in the face from saying create a zone, leave the zone, trade back into the zone. That's where the money is. Right? So even if this runs out of here, it's either going to do one of two things. You're either going to see a flip come in here and go, right, on smaller time frame structure, or you're going to see something where it goes like this, and then what happens? We've got our lower time frame protected high, we trade back into here, and then that's your other long. So it gives you multiple opportunities typically to get involved. Right? So we've got a top here on a very small time frame. And now what are we looking for? We're looking for either this to sort of sweep below here, or we're looking for flip, tap back in and go, or we're looking for a flip up here, tap back in and go, right? We're probably going to have multiple entries in here. And it's up to you guys what you guys see, right, within your zone. We're not looking for it in here. You're looking for it within a point of interest. Bang. Now what are we looking for? Right? We've just swept. Anything in here is an excellent place to look at going long with your stop now below here. Because price has now just told you that we've done this. Right? So this is where you might look for a market order somewhere in here. It might run this high and then come back down into this zone. Right? But we're not waiting now for this area, because the market's told us, it's already given us our confirmation signature. We're very happy. This is a smiley face. Look at that. Look how happy we are. Right? Bang. Anybody along yet? Or not quite. Right? And by the way, whereabouts is our first hurdle that we might be looking at? Some of you might have already identified. Right? So before you're in here, you're thinking, okay, I've got, how many different things to look for, right? Trading is easy, but it's also getting yourself to that point, right? So I'm long here. Where is my target? That might be a nice target to have, right? Which would then send me back down for potential higher time frame move that would send us way up. Structure, narrative, areas, and confirmations, right? Potential sweep of here, failed to make a new high. There's your sweep. Anybody long in here? That's kind of sexy, isn't it? Right? What are we seeing here? It's almost like we called that beforehand, isn't it? Weird. Probably random, right? That doesn't mean we're shorting here because we've seen this and we see red and we're like, oh my God, the 50% hasn't been touched. No. Right? We're not expecting this. We're not shorting in here expecting that last few points. We're trading what we see, not what we think. Random. Random, 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 random. Right? Is there a possibility this knifes through and takes our high out? Right? Tap back into here. Right? First tap, double bottom on a small time frame. What's it going to do with price being fractal? Right? First tap into the zone that was just created here. Actually, you might even consider doing this. Right? We might expect something like this now. Play a few bars. By the way, anybody short for a 1-to-1 here? Is it viable to expect this lower time frame zone to be tapped into again? If we get, and this is the key word, is if we get something in here that takes us lower. Yes, burn this pattern into your brain. This is 2020, right? You could go back to a chart from 1916. Psychology's been around a long time. Some people on this app or on Twitter or in the market, like they think that they invented price. Are you saying you invented price and Fibonacci? It's been around since before we were born. Right? You guys are excellent traders. Different rules. Right? Some people said they were short. Excellent. Right? Are you short expecting lower? Or are we short expecting here? Cool. Some people are saying 1-to-1. That's fair. Right? What do you not want to see in here that makes you get out? Is it the high here? Or is your stop up here? Right? Where's our valid area? Like technically this closed below here. Right? These are things that you got to be thinking of pretty quick. Who's still short? Be honest with yourselves. What did we take in here that allowed you guys to go short? Trippy, my man. Right? If you're not taking liquidity, you are liquidity. Chuck is a legend. We all aspire to trade that way. Right? If you guys are just starting out, you get your 3 points in here. Excellent. Right? The man's seen a billion charts and he knows exactly what to see or what he wants to see to get out here. Right? Personally, I need to see more, or I need to see something taken. Right? What happens if this fails here? That's also an added confirmation. Bang. Now what are we looking for? Is there a possibility? Right? That doesn't mean we need to be part of every trade. But if your stop was one tick above this bar, you were actually not out. Right? Who's being a prick for a tick here? Are you guys holding? One tick. Who's holding? Oh, what's going on? Zaxi. Please? What we got here? Oh, added confirmation. Right? Are these part of the structure? Nope. Order filled. Didn't even give it to us this one. But a decent sweep in here at that zone. You guys made your extra $5. Woo! For 3 minutes of sweat. Big W. Right? Now what are we expecting? We start drawing things out again, right? Here we go. We swept here. What does that make this? All day. All day. It could be one tick. It could be 1 point. It could be 5 points. What are we expecting now? Right? Where's this high going to be formed? At an area of interest. The market doesn't move randomly. You've got an area here. That might be somewhere where we come up into here, come back down to mitigate this flip or confirm the flip, and then leave again. Exactly what we saw here, exactly what we saw here, exactly what we're going to see here. Same pattern over and over and over and over and over and over. Pack a lunch. Where are we going? What happens to this high? What's our higher time frame narrative right now? We just flipped down here. Cooked. Cooked, cooked, cooked. Right? Lower time frame delivering higher time frame order flow. Right? And by the way, what happens to this high? We would expect a higher time frame to cook this as well. Right? Now, if we start looking at this, right? What is this move here? It's the same pattern in reverse, isn't it? Which delivered us our 1-to-1 area, right? Didn't quite get up to the 50% of this, but she was close, and you got your flip, right? This pattern, these signatures are everywhere, right? Now, do you need to be trading off the 15-minute? Of course not, right? We can see what the 15 minutes doing based off the 1 minute. Can new arrivals see the voice channel? I think they can. Let me triple check. Yeah, they should be able to, but I'm going to quadruple check. Yeah, they can come in. Yes, they should be able to come in. 168, that's not bad. Okay. Back to sauce. Hopefully some sauce, right? So we've now started doing what, right? Essentially, we started a bit of a channel here, right? Now let's ignore this sort of extreme. Right? So probably something like this. My OCD likes to make them equal, right? So ideally, we're likely going to see is some sort of channeling action, right? And by the way, as I kind of mentioned on stream on Friday, channel down, second high, right? Channel down, typically we would want second high in there, right? And over and over and over and over again. You know, this actually, I don't think quite got there, but typically what you see is a second high. Okay, but we'll get this off. Keep that in your back of you guys' mind. So we'll continue on here. Probably expecting this to get taken at some point, but again, this is sort of lower time frame structure right now, looks like, right? We can kind of see that by the lack of interest in the 1 minutes. So the 5 second will come back up here. They'll probably mitigate this zone, come back down into here, give us our flip that leads to a higher move out. I'm going to kind of move this a little bit ahead to midnight, where we might start to see a little bit of volatility and get you guys excited. Right? So we're seeing here, taps back down, probably looking for a little bit lower maybe. There it goes. Into here. Anybody long? Probably. Where's your stop? Below here likely. Right? I'm starting to see a little bit of structure. Okay. Fast forward just ahead a few bars. Boom. Traded away from here, back down into this zone, very likely, right? And now you guys can probably see what are we starting to make on smaller time frames. Something like this. Get rid of that one. We haven't cooked that high yet, have we? Right. So what we're doing here is our structure is bullish, but we're actually creating a lower high in here, right? So what we're looking for is where's our protected low on our lower time frame, which is here, because we actually got a body closure regardless of how this wick looked. Likely coming back down to here, and if we can't break this low, that means we're running both of these, right? Anybody short? Top of a range here? Are we going long? We're sitting on hands. Sitting on hand. Right? And I'm glad you guys are being honest with yourselves as well, because in real time, we want to capture every $100. Some of us are good enough to do that for sure, right? Just because we think that this going into here, if we don't have 100 or 150 trades of experience to say, I'm probably going for this low here, right? And I want to see X, Y, and Z to stay into a short here. right? We want to be on the right side of the chart and get our experience up, right? That doesn't mean being a part of it, but it means that we're studying price and deriving an expectation of what it should do to continue on doing what it's doing, right? For example, if we're going to go higher in a healthy market, we don't just go, okay, well, we're long here, so I want 60 points, right? We understand that we have speed bumps on the way that's going to take us down until we go. Bang. Anybody along? Pleasure, Varian. Usually when you see that, you want to see multiple imbalances. This one's being respected, yes. But I don't typically use imbalances for entries. I'm aware of them on my chart, but if you're long, say, here on this imbalance at 43.50, right, your stop's well below here. I'd much rather wait for a sweep in my zone and have 2 or 3 points risk rather than risking the entire balance, especially on a higher time frame. And Zaxi mentioned there's actually an SNDR here as well. That's correct. Right? What did we sweep? What have we taken right now liquidity wise? Nothing. Not a thing. Right. So are we long on the close of this with our stop below here? No. No, we are not. Please do not take that long. My PMs get spammed enough. I'm just kidding. But please don't take this long. Right? I want you guys to all have a long and healthy life. Stress. Don't take my stop. Don't take it. No. Now what are we doing? Right? Those of you that might be ambitious might have taken something in here already. Some of you will understand that you're now waiting for something like this, right? And some even still are looking at this going, well, yeah, we're actually still in a range here, right? But we're now anticipating higher prices based off of the structure that's forming below here, right? We've broken structure up, we tap back in, we're now leaving for a higher time frame move. Whoop. There's your tap back in. Stop is, you got your double, your tweezers here in fairness, but you know, your long is probably, you wouldn't really want this SNDR to get swept. You know where my stop is. One to one. Yeah, I can understand that, I suppose. But like if you're taking a long in here with a 2-point stop, you're basically looking for this, I suppose, right? I would have a very high win rate taking trades at the top of the range there. Right? Personally, if we get a valid low that's formed in here with a sweep in a zone, what happens to this high? Still long? Right? If thens, what happens if we close below here? That might be somewhere you consider getting out, right? Is it valid to tap back into here and continue up? All right. Somebody's mentioning the 50% of this zone. Fair. Tap the imbalance in the wick. Anybody holding for this? Be honest, be honest, be honest, be honest. Beyonce. Too scared. Fair. Fair. Honor your guys' experience. All good. All good. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Chuck's already getting his drink to put you guys out of your misery. Let's see it. Bang. Wham. Nice work, lads. Right? In here, took out a higher time frame area. Tap back into the range after, right? We don't long here. I don't care what this candle looks like. I equally don't care if this candle opens and goes up. We want consistent actions that give us consistent profits. Consistent actions, consistent results. Right? If you guys are struggling, it's because you're trading based off of momentum. You're taking the long in here that sometimes gives you profits here. But then you're also doing it here and you're expecting that high to get ran. And then what happens? You get cooked. Then what happens is your win rate's 55, 60%, but your days give you boom and bust mentalities. Right? We don't want Monday, Tuesday profitable, Wednesday giving it all back, Thursday profitable, Friday, hopefully a break even on the week. Right? We want to study the consistent, create a zone, leave the zone, tap back into the zone with narrative. Right? Structure and narrative. Our job here is to teach you the former and build on the second, because you guys can look at YouTube videos, whether we've put them out or anybody else, and see the flips happening, and you go, well, that's easy. Why am I not making money? Right? Our job here is to shorten that learning curve. So what are we expecting here? We've just broken the area, right? Say this is a 15-minute time frame, call it whatever, right? What do we expect here? Right? Accumulation based off of that time frame, right? When you break an hourly zone, what do you get? You get higher time frame accumulation. When you break a 15-minute zone, you get smaller amount of accumulation, typically, right? Doesn't mean we short the closer here to trade back into the zone, but we can anticipate that potential happening. Okay? By the way, are we still channeling? Here's our accumulation. Trade back down, swept. Probably taking that high now. Cooked. Right? Grinding higher until where? Probably looking at this here. Well, you wanna bathroom break range? We good? Playing around with the bell. How many swings are we at? Right? Nobody's mentioned swings. That's right. When we get a valid high, we'll start our fourth swing. Actually, that'll be our fifth, right? Recall the first one that gets put in, that puts in the low is our first, second, third, right? Fourth came in here. This is not a fifth swing yet, right? When we get a valid high, we're then expecting a fifth swing. So at some point, we're expecting this to reset. And then we'll determine if we get a change in order flow that takes us down to an unmitigated zone, and then a change in order flow to send us higher. And still no. All right. So when you're shorting, essentially what you're looking for is at least forming a valid high and a flip. Right. And that would be a scalp because we haven't broken a protected low, which is all the way where? All the way down here. Right. Now, what do we say? If the market's going to pull back, what are we looking for? We're looking for a protected low to be formed higher at the top of the range so that it makes our market structure shift easier, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to a reversal, but it would at least give us confidence and a high probability to pull back to an area that we're looking for. Ideally, what do we got here? This range would be a tasty target, right? Something in here perhaps, or something even a little bit deeper. Okay. Is this valid? Finally. Right? Where's our last structural bull bar? Right here. Where's its low? Right there. Did we close below it? Yes. Right? I don't care that this opened here. Not relevant. I want a closure below the last structural bull bar. Right? That doesn't necessarily mean that we're looking to tap back in and short. Right? It just means that we've actually got a swing that's going on here. Right? Right? Because what this could do is then form a protected low here after we close above here, right? And then we could look at something where, we're looking at some movement back down. Beautiful. What are we thinking here? We're looking for a retracement back up and then a breakdown. SNDR top. Okay. Okay. Anybody thinking long? Where's your protected low? Protected low is still here. Right? Common misconception in trading is that you want to trade against the trend. We know the protected low is here, so the potential of this coming down and closing here for a market structure shift is possible. But equally as possible is that we actually form a new high after sweeping this. In fact, that's a lot more possible. This wasn't part of structure. Okay. Seems like a lower time frame flip. That's cool. That's possible. Yes. Right. Some people identified this as the zone. Right. This would be a 30% tap of that. Right. You do have lower time frame. High, low, high, right? Swept down here, right? Or you'd even, suggest something like this, and then we tapped it like back into here and then kept going down. So 5-second pullback, right? Yes, we are at the top of an area, but our narrative is that if we're going to make a market structure shift and continue lower, we're probably going to go higher to do so. Why? Because our protected low is down here. We need to make a new protected low in here, which is going to deliver us up so that we can trade below it and then do a market structure shift. Right? So a sweep in here. We're now looking for potential long here. We've taken the liquidity out from everybody who's in here now, looking to make potentially a new protected low. Right? And for all of you guys that are thinking short based off of the 5-second chart, your protected low hasn't been broken yet. So how nervous are you right now when it trades back up into here? Double bottom. What does that pattern look like? Oh, is this going to cook me? Maybe. Yeah. I take my own advice. Eh? You guys that were short in here, looks like you made a little bit of money. Uh, uh, Anybody still along? Money printer. By the way, what happens if you don't take your profits in here? A long to another valid high. Still long? Right? You stop back into the range. They're just trying to figure out what they're doing. Stop break even. Baldy. Toilet paper people likely get cooked, which means this is likely a 2-leg sideways to down and then back up. Right? If the first imbalance gets respected, yeah. Right? But this is why I don't use imbalances. This is actually exactly why I don't use imbalances. Stuff that wasn't part of structure, at least one of them. Right? Our high, I should mark this up here, is here. Right? What just happened to our swing count on the 1 minute? We've got now got what? Protected low here. Right? Now, where was our last valid low? It was here, wasn't it? Which we then traded above, which we then confirmed close below. not the wick, the last valid bear bar. Close below here, making this resetting our swing count, which is important. Why? Otherwise, we might expect this to be the final swing, and now we're looking for a potential short after it cooks this high to then take us way down. It reset because we had a high that got put in here, this high. We close below it here, validating it as a high, right? We made a low here, which was then validated here, and then we broke it and closed below it. Right? So this was our protected low. We came up. This is actually still a range, right? But we've actually got a reset here because we had a low here, which was validated, and we actually broke it. So this was our reset. Right? Our higher time frame protected low is still down here because we've now just broken above it again. There we go. Right? Who's expecting this low to get cooked? Where will we look to buy? Right? Probably here. If. Right? We're looking for a signature. We've got some inducement coming in now that we've got some buying that's happened off of this low. I guess thinking we're waiting for this, or is this enough? Or sitting on hands? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I see a lot of confused faces. So essentially what we're looking at is we've got higher time frame swings that are going on here, right? And we've got lower time frame swings that are going on within there, right? And then even still, we've got swings that get reset in there on the lower time frames, right? Nothing left, everything mitigated. Correct. Okay. Anybody still along? What are we expecting to happen here below this high? Whether it happens or not, what's our expectation? Right. And by the way, just for you guys' understanding as well, yes, this is still the protected low until this forms. This was a lower time frame reset that continued up. For this entire range down, yes, this is now confirmed as a swing. That's correct. Right. So I would look at this for sure. And yes, as some people mentioned, we would expect some sort of a range to form in here with extremes, right? Which is then leading to a break of this. That's right. Right. So we've got higher time frame swings, right? We've got our higher time frame ones going in here, right? We had our 1 minute push up, which then reset on the way down. And now we have our 1 minute swings that are coming in here, right? We have our 2 in here, 3, 4, this is 5, right? We're expecting 6 to form somewhere in here. Where does it need to happen, right? We've got our bull bar that's coming here. So all this is not part of 1 minute structure. Okay. So we're expecting an SNDR to form here to potentially take it off, right? What else would give us an issue to not end up taking this high, right? How many failures would we be looking for? Right. There's something I actually haven't there. One of the challenges for Chuck and I is really kind of educating you guys on what exactly to look for without giving you guys a ton of advanced material before we've got our zones and our narrative sort of figured out. But one of the things for sure is the concept of a wedge pattern. So this is kind of an Al Brooks thing that I learned way back in the day, and what essentially what you're looking at is the power of 3 failures that then lead you to, right? So we've got 1 push up, so 2 pushes up, 3 pushes up, leads typically to a failure, right? Not suggesting that's going to happen right now, but when you start seeing wick failures in here, that's one of the things to, yeah, some people call it the 3 drives pattern. I think I've seen that too. Essentially, it's 1 push up with a failure, 2 pushes up that fails, 3 pushes up with fails. And essentially what you're doing is you're clearing liquidity above to then send you lower, right? Alternatively, but that only kind of works if we're not clearing the liquidity below, right? So our 2 sort of options right now are with the expectation that this high is going to get ran and an SNDR forming or accumulation up here. Essentially what I want to see is I would want to see something sweep the liquidity here, close back in, and that would drive us higher. If I don't get that and I just get something like this, then I'm potentially looking at something failing up here, which is then going to send us lower. Because that's telling me that it's not ready to go up yet. For whatever reason, it has to mitigate something lower before we do. Okay. Something to study, perhaps. All right, so we're looking at this low here, failed to put it a new high. We should expect to get cooked, but if we're in a different sort of mode, then it won't get cooked, and we'll expect a potential failure. Yes, 100%. So this low here, this failure, this sweep and go. As Chuck just mentioned, study that chart as well. Important bottoming pattern. Ooh, body closure above. Making what? Protected low. Oh dear. Anybody still long? what just got put in here? Solid high, that's right. No. So are we looking to take a 50% tap here? And with the understanding that we've now just put in this is our sixth swing that's now been confirmed with a high. Right? In liquidation, right? Is it going to be kind? No. Right? Where was your potential flip if you were quick? What does that look like? Right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, you could be aware of your swings, right? We've got our narrative up here. We're expecting this high, but we're trading what we see here, right? At the top of a range, a higher time frame range. So we would expect when we trade close to this high, what do we expect first? We expect to come up, trade away from it, and then probably run it. And what we're monitoring on this way down, now that we're expecting a lower time frame movement down to mitigate, is we're now looking for a signature to lead us back up. Right? Wherever that may be. Again, we're going to trade what we see, not what we think. Right? We might love something coming back down all the way into here. Right? We've just broken our protected low. So at a minimum, we should be expecting a trade back into the range and then potentially a short out of there. Right? And then a potential signature that's going to then take us back up here. Right? This is now our protected low here. We had a high put in. Actually, no, that's true. That's true. This is our protected low. Sorry, I'm tripping. That's our lower time frame one. Right? Bearish range. We haven't really formed one yet. We'd have to leave this zone. Right? And this is actually important. Apologies for that. I was a little zoomed in. If we can't break this protected low, then what happens? Right? And yes, just to illustrate why this wasn't protected is because this was our drive up. Right? This is our protected low. This is not a valid pullback yet. Right? So this is all considered part of the same swing up. Okay. Tap right back down to it. What are we thinking here? All right. Are we looking to short in here? First imbalance. All right. We've got our valid high in here. We're long. Okay. If you're not long, what would you want to see to get long? You want to see some sort of a flip pattern, right? Right. So what's that going to look like? Some sort of inducement that comes on in here. Trade up, sweep, or trip it again, right? Make a low in here, trade up, break it again, and go. Right? Right. So somebody's asking, this has been something been taken. All this liquidity just got swept out. All this liquidity just got swept out. But our protected low is here. Right? Conservatively, people that are looking at this with our protected low, if you get clapped, you get clapped. So you bought the close of this after the double bottom. Your stop's below here and fine. Right? If you're going to get nuked, right, you're buying a potential sixth swing down, right? With the understanding that we're in a giant range at the top, right? You have to take into account narrative, and this is where you get very, very adamant about what you're seeing, what you want to have to go long. Right? There's a strong possibility this gets nuked. Now, if we start flipping in here and we don't want to do this, it's probably going to scream at us otherwise, right? But at a minimum, even if this high doesn't get taken out, we understand that we haven't violated our protected low, so shorts aren't valid. At a minimum, we should be able to target back up into here. We still thinking long? What would you need to see now to get long? Sweet. Sweet, sweet. Yeah, good. Good. Actually, excellent, guys. Right? Now, this is a nice range here. We could sweep below here without violating our protected low here. And if we close back into here, that might work. Alternatively, right, we could touch on something into here. And some people are talking about this S&D, right, which is also something else, right? What we don't want to see that would lead us to think that lower prices are coming, unless it knifes down, of course, is we don't want to see a body closure in here. What are we thinking? Is that enough? Conservative people in here will now see this. And now you're looking for this. Right? Now that we've actually gone lower. Finally. Right? Those of you that enjoy your sweeps and being in lower have something here. And we're really unhappy at the shorting. Right? We've got our strong push down. We've got this accumulation. We don't want bullish response. Right? And like Chuck just said, if we get a closure above here, then man, oh man. Like, I'm already starting to smell something. It smells really damn good. Right? So if you'd all like to join me, I think we're going to go and have a nice little barbecue. Oh, sizzle, sizzle. Left it, tap back in. Oh man. Clack, clack, clack goes the tongs. Anybody short? You better not. Oh man. Right? What happens on one time frame happens on every time frame. If this is a 1 minute consolidation, if it's a 5 minute consolidation, how many bars do we expect? Right? So if you're long in here and it's making you sweat a little bit, you have to understand that not every trade that you get in on is going to be a freaking rocket ship. You have to understand whereabouts you are with your accumulation phase. There's our closure. And subsequently, right? B, B, Q. Order filled. Body closure above the highs. What happens now? Accumulation. That's right. Right? Can we range here and have this considering tapped back into the range? That's sort of market structure. If the bears have enough presence, what do you get? You get failure to close above accumulation. Right? Man, we're only at 2 o'clock. This is an hour and a half. Sorry, guys. We'll speed this up a little bit. PPP, right? Ran up. We're expecting probably a run back down, probably take these guys out, determine if we're going higher or not. What do we want to see if we're going to trade back down into this range? Right? We want to see a valid high. And oh, by the way, are we expecting some sort of failure up in here? Yes, we are. 100%. Find your guys' one kick. We'll give you a few of them to practice. Right? What do you want to see down here to continue higher? You definitely don't want to see a protected low get respected. Right? That's your number one thing. You're not looking for higher time frame or large shorts when your protected lows are being respected and not violated. If this is going lower, you're going to see bang and a closure down here. Right? The market's beautiful. Trade your rules, you're going to make money. You're going to do one of three things. She's going to either talk to you about her birthday present, she's going to talk to you about dinner, or she's going to talk to you about your mother-in-law, right? She's going to whisper at you and leave you little clues. She's either going to have range bound action and kind of go, I don't really know what I want, or she's going to be like, I'm going down. I'm going up. I'm screaming at you, right? One of those three. period. Like, I'm ready to go. Bang. She whispering at you? No. You know when she's going up. Guess what? I'm going down until I'm not. And then she's going to leave clues to tell you that she's going back up again. Listen to her. All right. So here we are, 2:30. Let's speed this up a little bit. All right, here we go. Nice little movement here. All right. Now, what are we expecting? Did we get a valid high in here? No, not yet. As soon as we get a valid high and we start our seventh swing or sixth swing, what are we expecting? Liquidity. That's right. How about now? All right. Nice little closure. Now, where's our protected low? Still down. These are actually equal lows in here. Right. So this valid high. So we have a protected low here, which created this valid high, which failed to put in a new low. Right. So this was not a protected high. Right. Hey, Gavin. And we actually kept up higher. Right. Now, our protected low is still down here. So what we're looking for is a flip that's then going to potentially take us back down to there. Right. Or we're looking at, because hey, Gavin, what's up, man? If we can't put in a low that's going to put in a new high, now that we're at our maximum capacity swing count, right? We've just taken our key area. Essentially, what we're looking for now is a valid low, a valid high, and then a flip. Take us back lower for a scalp. Right? And if we're going to go much lower, we're going to violate our protected low. Or at least have a few swings that sort of deal with it that way. Right? So we've got our valid high. This is our seventh swing. Where are we expecting our short to come from if we're going to get short? Right? This is where we drop down to our seconds time frame and we kind of go, we're looking at this potentially. Take us back down into the range. And the reason we're not waiting for our seventh or our protected low is because we're on our seventh swing. Correct. Anybody thinking long here? Could we go long here to target this for a few points? Right? Right? That doesn't necessarily mean we're not stalking shorts, right? But we're forming narrative and directional bias where we're looking at something like this with our stop above here to then potentially take us lower, right? To where, probably cook these lows at a minimum back into this zone, right? We've got our SNDR that was here, which would be a speed bump as well, right? Which would then leave us a little bit higher to mitigate whatever area we came out of, right? And this is what you guys are kind of thinking, right? So we trade down here, we trade back up, and then we continue lower until we get to our higher time frame narrative, which would be, in this case, targeting that. And we'll see what this sort of goes on, right? Anybody short already? Are you waiting for a little bit more? Right? What are we waiting for to get involved? We've got our valid high in here. Right? What do we want to see to get involved at the 50%? Flip or inducement. Sweep, tap, flip, right? So if our higher market participants are going to get short, they're going to do it in stages. The first tap is a scalp, right? Our sweep gives us our larger move. Right? If you're taking the one trade and you guys are just starting, you're waiting for that sweep so you can take the larger move. I think ICT calls it the distribution, second distribution. Other disciplines will see, a two-legged pullback, right? So what do we get? Our tap back down to this zone. We've now mitigated this zone. What are we looking for? Right? Your tap usually occurs at the 30%. Right? Now, could this go down? Yes. What do we see on the 1 minute? We see this. Right? So for us to flip on the 1 minute, we've got to do this. This is your what if, right? So say we're not involved yet because we're waiting for a sweep. This could be a sweep if we trade below here. And then you're looking for a tap back in and go. Right? Your other what if scenario is you're looking for that to be your scalp. You're looking for a sweep here, and then this is your move. These are your what ifs. Okay? What if, what if, what if, what if, what if? We're going to follow price. So which one are we going to get? Up. Up. Looks like inducement to me. What about you guys? Up. Anybody short, or are we expecting the highs to get ran? Okay, some people are saying still stop below here. Some people are saying highs expected, right? We've got a double top here, right? A lot of people are expecting the highs to get ran, okay? I'm sitting on my hands right now. I'm not thrilled about this closure above. I would have wanted a sweep. Sweep would have been my A plus. If I get a closure below here now my risk is mitigated even further, right? But you'll see here that we did this, and then we actually went higher. So what stage are we in? Right? This is still lower time frame bullish movement. Right? So we had two options where we're looking for a sweep, which would have gotten us in. We were looking for a move down here and a tap back in and then go. This doesn't fall into either of them. So we're not doing anything right now, are we? Right? There's a very strong possibility that we do something in here, and then what happens is we actually get our movement later on. Right? For now, we sit on our hands while the market decides and then tells us what it wants to do. Pretty strong price action. Right? I personally don't want to short with the 1 point of risk. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad short or it's not going to work, but we're looking at probabilities. That's nice. Right? So we have now swept up here, traded below. Right? People are getting chopped up for sure. I'm not thrilled that we've mitigated this zone. We've had strong bullish price action. I would want to see a little bit more that's going to tip our hand, right? Something like this. And then I'm getting in as it leaves the zone and creates something on a smaller time frame for me to short off of. Right? Again, listen to what the market's telling you. She's going to leave some clues or she's going to scream at you. Cute. Yes, protected lows for sure. Right? And ideally what you want to see is you want to see a protected low being formed up here. For example, if this low after getting a valid high delivered and we closed up here, then we would have a protected low for a larger move. Right? And that will be a market structure shift. If we're looking for a lower time frame retracement, we're going to get a flip up here and then retrace lower to then do what? Probably continue higher. Right? So for example, if we zoom out here and you have a look at what the hourly is doing or 15-minute time frame, which is probably your guys's, right? We've got, and we'll ignore this. We've got this, right? Or actually not that one, the 15-minute. Back up. Right? We've got like, our we don't know where this is coming from, but let's say we're doing this, right? We're then looking for a movement back into here where the 50% of this zone, which is then going to continue up higher. That's our higher time frame movement. And then our lower time frames facilitating the up and down that occur in there, right? So our two options are a higher time frame pullback And if we're going to do that, then what we're going to do is we're going to flip on a lower time frame that's then going to do this, which is just a pullback in that higher time frame move we just drew out that's then going to send us higher. Right? Alternatively, we're going to violate a 5-minute protected low or a 15-minute protected low, and that's actually going to lead us much further down into here, probably the move origin or something along those lines. So that's where sort of higher time frame narrative comes in with what we're talking about. Right? When to anticipate a market structure shift versus a pullback. Okay. That's right. So we're on this would be our 7th swing down that we're currently in right now. Anybody thinking of getting short now that we've left this zone and tap back into it? Still no? You guys want to see something violated down here, perhaps? Okay. Okay. If you're unsure, sit on your hands. This is not somewhere we were looking for long trades, that's for sure. Bang. Right. Going long on the 7th swing. You know. How are we thinking? Right, what's our lower time frames doing now? Right? Where are we looking? If. Right, we're looking to see this get violated first. We're looking for our smaller zone in here. We've just left the zone. You don't want to see a candle closure above here. If you see candle closures above here, then you can start looking at long. Right? What I'm looking at is I'm looking at these large bear bars that are institutional, and we're respecting the open of them. Right? Now we've got our closure below. We're starting to get some nice action in here. Beautiful. So Chuck just said, for those of you guys that aren't in chat, this video will be posted to our YouTube channel after we're done. 100 retweets on this video on Twitter. We'll be giving away a free month to 10 people. So we're essentially giving away $1,000 value for less than a minute of you guys' time. Right, so our expectation is lower because of our swing count. Right? We've now failed here, which means this low is getting cooked. So anybody kind of longing in here or thinking whatnot after this, you're longing off of a weak low, right? This is kind of our last line in the sand on our smaller time frame here. Which we just cooked, right? So our likely scenario, with the understanding we're going lower, even though we just tapped back into this, is we're looking for a tap back into this smaller time frame range with the expectation of going lower because of our swing count. There we go. Skip a little bit ahead and kind of see what our mitigation looks like, and we'll see if we can find a bit of a signature to see whereabouts our pullback has ended from. All right, so let's get rid of this. We've got our key zone in here. We got our double bottom that that ran the high. Probably looking to sweep this. All right. Some of you guys are with the understanding that we've got sort of our last unmitigated zone here. Yeah, I'd be looking to see sort of what happens probably in this range here. We'll zoom ahead about a half hour just for our pullback. That's a nice little flip into there, but not really interested in the middle of this, even though that might have delivered a 1-to-1 of this zone. Actually, might have just tapped you into that. Excellent. Okay. We'll mark out our point of interest here to see what happens with it. Right. We're identifying that we've got our smaller zones in here. Didn't get tapped to. Already delete that one. Anybody thinking long yet? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to make some videos on just some short content videos this week on a few things, and I'll get you guys at the end of this as well to give some input on what you'd like to see. Maybe we'll do a poll or something like that. All right. So now we've slipped below. Right, we have a weak high here. Our possibility would be that if we can close above this, then I'd be looking for potentially higher prices. Anything short of that, I would still be expecting lower. Okay. And there goes our low. Right. Now, what do we want to see here other than just a sweep? And by the way, will a sweep here be a valid entry? Possibly, right? What's the safer play? We've got this here, down, down. We're looking for this for a bottoming pattern. Is this our scalp or is this our longer move? It's our scalp, right? So we're looking for this to trade higher for us, which would be excellent, right? Where's our lower time frame? And then by that I mean seconds. 1700, boys and girls, excellent. Woo. Right, this is our lower time frame high, which we want to see violated, right? But where's our protected high? Right? What's the significance of this bar here? Right? Putting you guys on the spot here. This was our prior structural low. No valid low. Where do we close below this? Close below it here. Did this become a valid low? Yes. So this is our next swing that does what? Makes this a protected high, which then, sorry, this became a protected high when we close below here. So for us to have a market structure shift, this is now the high that we need to close above, right? Because this candle closed below here. You guys understand that, right? Good. It's a little confusing with these wicks that we use for zones, but you have to understand that's actually not part of structure. Right? So if we're looking for a flip, what are we expecting to be created in here? This is a protected high on a 1 minute chart. What are we expecting to be created somewhere in here that's going to send us up and break structure? SNDR. That's right. Which we would then, after we violate a protected high, we tap back into it and it gives us a move. Right? Our move origin is down here. Specifically this sort of fractal. Right? We use our lowest point when we're determining our swing area. For example, if this was a zone, we would use the wick to wick, right? But if we're identifying market structure, we're looking at body closure. Okay, we'll see what happens here. Swept below, still closing down. There's our tap up, our tap back in, right? You guys see the flip that's occurring here? Down, up, down, right? And then this. Ideally, we'd see something like this, which would then send us higher. This is your first sort of risky buy. It's an awful drawing. Right? So this is seconds SNDR that then broke above here. Tap back into it, we'll go. And we would expect other time frames to follow suit as well. What happens on one happens on all. Right? Tap back in, and away we go. No body closure yet. Still no body closure. Does that mean this is a weak low? Currently. Right? Do we have a valid high though? No. We don't. Right? Barbecue. Okay. So we're expecting to trade up to where? Unmitigated area, which would then send us back down. And depending on what our change in order flow happens, we might tap into this SNDR and go. We could go lower to origin, and we'll go from there. Right? We'll go for maybe another 15 minutes or so. We actually didn't even get to open. We were doing this on the 1 minute today. Usually I do it on the 5, but I wanted to give you guys a lot more exposure to flips and signatures. All right, so we traded back down, in, swept, tap back in. I don't think that quite ticked your, no, one tick off of the 1-to-1 there on that sweep. Okay. Anybody long in here? Knife down in, we want to see some sort of reaction to it. Right? We got no val and high in here, which means we had no protected low in here either. Right? Right? We're expecting after we break this to trade back down into our area. Now, some people might have already looked at this as a potential long area with your stop below. Fair enough. I prefer typically to refine. So is there a clear, like crystal clear sort of SNDR? Not necessarily. This is definitely an area I'd be looking for. This consolidation that already delivered, I'm not thrilled that we knifed through it. I'm expecting a little bit lower as a result. Right? Essentially what we're doing is we're clearing out some sort of this liquidity that wasn't part of structure as we head back down to this flip. What are we thinking here? We're thinking low gets cooked? Possibly. Right? We've got an unmitigated zone below that we already drew out. Right? Pretty strong candle. What would we not want to see if we were looking at this as a bear trend? We don't want to see a sweep closure here and then some sort of a flip, right? There's your sweep. Trade back above, back in. And we're looking at the exact same thing that happened here, right? Oh my goodness. Come back down here. All right, there's your candlestick flip. Tap back into this imbalance and gone. We didn't actually even get our tap back down to here. Right? So for those of you that are conservative, now you're looking for this being a higher time frame move, which is probably good because now we're looking at much higher prices. And what we're looking for is some sort of SNDR here that's going to really break this zone open. Right? And now what do we see here on a higher time frame? Rut-row. What happens to this high almost immediately if we make an SNDR in here? Barbecue coming for sure. Right? Tapped into this area, mitigated it, hopefully trade back down to give us a little bit better of an entry. But if we're going to see this, we essentially want some sort of mitigation and then go up in here. This is how you kind of refine when, you know, it leaves you guys behind or whatever else. Hypothetically, say you didn't take this sweep entry at the 50% of the origin. You know, that's definitely something to study. But if you're comfortable right now with your zones, you know, looking for flips, then you're essentially looking for something up in here. Right? Is this what you want to see if you're shorting up in this zone? Right? Or do you guys smell something cooking? Sideways consolidation up here. Do we have a valid high? No, we don't. That's right. All this, danger zone. Anybody long? Still long, good. Good, good, good. Failing to have any sort of movement below here. Boom. Right? Possible tap back in, or it just goes. Right? Now, if you're trailing your 5-second highs and lows, or you're seeing this start to go parabolic, one of the tricks you can do is now, your stop is here, your stop's now here, you're seeing this sort of range form. You're looking to see if you get a valid high come in. If you don't, what are we expecting? Right? We just got a higher time frame flip here. What are we expecting to happen with this now? This is when you're glancing 5% of your time or so at your higher time frames, right? Expecting certain price action. And if we looked at the higher time frame, you would see a wick here, right? And by the way, first tap, double bottom. What happens on one time frame, as you saw, and here happens on every time frame. Still no valid high. Right? Stop below here, maybe, 50% of it. See what the next candle gives you. And you're trailing up. That's how you catch monster moves here. Right? Now, problem is that we don't know what's going on over here. There could be a high that's, slightly above, say here. Right? We're just following on a lower time frame what it's telling us it wants to do. But at some point, you're going to look for accumulation. Right? Right. And you saw a higher time frame flip in here, letting you know that this was finished with its higher time frame pullback. Right? Now, this was actually all before 5 o'clock. Well, wild. Right? So I think we're actually going to call it here, guys. I've kept you guys for a couple of hours. And hopefully this was a lot of value for you guys. I know Chuck mentioned something about YouTube, which is going to go on. Today, I believe, is the last day of the trial for anybody who's on the fence. And hopefully, we've provided you guys with enough value. If not, thank you very much for the opportunity to call price and reprice in front of you guys and tell you guys what we're about. We thoroughly enjoyed having everybody here. And I hope to see you guys around for sure. Any questions or any concerns or comments or anything, please let me know for sure. My my messages are always open, or reach out to any of the lads in here as well. Okay. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the pre-market.